It wasn't illegal, right? So it wasn't wrong. That's the mindset. That's the justification. That's the excuse. And it is exactly how abusers hide in plain sight because they don't follow morals, right? They follow loopholes. And if it's not against the law, nobody pressed charges. If the bruises were gone before the photos were taken, then in their mind, it didn't happen or it doesn't count. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a toxic and abusive relationship expert, and I don't do sugarcoating. I don't believe that abusers are confused or broken or lost. I believe that they're opportunists, right? They know exactly what they're doing and they just kind of think that they're untouchable. So if you're ready to stop giving them the benefit of the doubt, hit subscribe because this episode is about how abusive men use three things to excuse their harm: legal loopholes, emotional coercion, and public sympathy, and how it all comes together to make survivors feel like they're the ones who are crazy. So let's get into it, okay? First off, just because something is legal, it doesn't make it right. And just because you didn't get arrested, it doesn't make you innocent. But abusers, they cling to legal definitions like they're drowning and it's their lifeboat. Screaming at you every night, that's legal. Withholding money so you can't leave, legal. Pressuring you into sex that you didn't want, but eventually you gave in because you were scared or exhausted, still legal. In Canada and the US, coercion isn't illegal. If a woman says yes after hours of pressure, manipulation, or emotional blackmail, it actually still counts as consent under the law. And for decades, even rape within marriage wasn't even considered a crime. Like in Canada, it wasn't outlawed until 1983. In the US, it took until the mid 90s for most states to catch up, and some didn't even until the 2000s. So for a long time, you could legally rape your wife, and the court would say, well, she's your property. And you still see it everywhere, right? Men are like throwing tantrums when their wives say no, withholding affection, using sex as a bargaining chip, saying, you owe me, like her body is some debt to repay. And that's not romance, that is coercion. This whole like, it's marital obligation. Ugh, that is disgusting. If she doesn't want to and you're doing it anyway, there's a four-letter word for that, my guy. Let's not forget that men have needed laws to tell them that they can't marry children. Most of the time, marital coercion, marital rape, it's not even seen as a problem because the law doesn't care, and neither does he, right? If you don't believe me, just look at how many men throw a tantrum when their wives say no, or withhold affection, or weaponize sex, or say, you owe me. It's not seduction. The law doesn't even touch it, right? Now, let's get back to this age of consent because this is the thing that men use like some kind of shield, right? She was 18. It's legal. You're 40, Chad. She just graduated high school. So, okay, it's legal, but it's grooming. It's targeting someone with no life experience, no power, no ability to see the red flags because they've never had a real adult relationship before. They're always going to be like, younger women, they're just more feminine, you know? Women my age, they have too much baggage, too much trauma. Younger women are drama free. No, you mean that she's easier to control. That's what you mean. It's not about compatibility. It is about access to someone who hasn't learned how to spot a predator yet. Let me give you an example, okay? You see it with people like Leonardo DiCaprio. He's always dating women under 25, right? It's treated like a running joke. But what's funny about men who only date young women who are not old enough and not really self-aware enough and have enough life experience to challenge them? And something else, doing something out in the open, it doesn't make it better, right? A man screaming at his wife in a restaurant, it's not that he's proving, well, it's not abuse, right? He's doing it in public. He's actually proving he has no shame. Same thing with openly dating barely legal women or making misogynistic jokes at work, right? They do it in front of other people because they know they can. It's not hidden because it doesn't need to be. The boldness is literally part of the power play. Doing it in public doesn't make it less harmful. I would argue it makes it more harmful. It means that he knows that no one is going to stop him. And that's really the psychology of it, right? They do it in the open because they know that people are going to freeze. They're going to accept it because they've trained you and others and everybody to see it as normal. That sort of brazenness, it's really part of the strategy, right? It's how they get you to doubt your own reaction. If it was really that bad, wouldn't have someone stepped in? right? The legal system can't even keep up with abuse dynamics because it was never built to. It was built by men for men. It was built to protect property. Women are property, and abusers know exactly how to use that to their advantage. And this goes way beyond relationships, okay? Look around. Firing someone for getting pregnant, it's legal in some US states if you're a small enough business. Refusing to rent to a single mom, often legal. Firing a woman for posting swimsuit photos online, somehow also legal. Medical coercion, legal. Doxing a partner online out of revenge, often legal unless it includes threats. So when a victim sues in civil court and she wins, abusers will brag, see, it wasn't criminal, it was just civil. It's a lower burden of proof. They say it like it clears them. Danny Masterson was convicted of rape and sentenced to 30 years. And people say, well, it was hearsay. There's no video. Johnny Depp lost in a UK court. He won in the US court, and people only believe the outcome that supports the version of the story that they want to be true. They don't want to ask, well, what does the evidence say, right? They want to ask, who's more famous? Who's more charming? Who do I like better? And she's not a perfect victim, so people won't believe her. Abusers count on that. They count on the fact that if they seem nice, right? If they're good looking, if they post Father's Day pictures and they smile at the neighbors, that no one will believe that they could be dangerous. That's how they hide in plain sight. Now, let's talk about religious and cultural excuses, because some men don't hide behind the law, they hide behind God. They'll say wives submit to their husbands as a commandment. They're going to use scripture to justify control, sex on demand, silencing, and even physical discipline. And when you push back, you're not even just disobedient, you're sinful, right? It's funny how the respect your wife verses, those never seem to come up. Weird. Now, I go into this in depth in a podcast episode, Real Talk with Lisa Sonni, Relationships Uncensored, where I talk to a former female pastor about exactly this topic. This isn't leadership, right? This is domination, and you sort of wrap it up in religion. But I want to go even deeper, because before it ever gets to court, or doesn't, right? Because that happens all the time. There's what happens behind closed doors. And this is where the difference between persuasion and coercion matters. I once debated a man online about that. It was really frustrating. Here's how you know. If somebody is trying to convince you, but you still feel safe and free and able to say no, that's persuasion. It might be annoying, it might be persistent, but it's not abusive. But if saying no feels dangerous, even emotionally dangerous, if it leads you to feel like guilty, rage, you feel punished, or you feel like you're being silenced, that's coercion. But abusers, they don't necessarily want agreement, right? They want compliance. And they'll use guilt and shame and fear, isolation, and even exhaustion to get it. They're going to say things like, if you really loved me, you would do this. Well, I guess I'll just go find someone else who will. If you leave, I'm going to myself. That's not consent, right? That's literally blackmail. And the law doesn't recognize that, right? Your body does, though. Your nervous system does. Your trauma does. And here's the part that makes it so much worse. They turn around and they use your reaction as proof that they're the victim. If you cry, you're unstable. If you yell back, you're abusive too. If you try to explain, you're manipulative. They'll provoke you, they'll film your meltdown, they'll wear you down, and then they'll call you clingy. They'll threaten to leave, they'll say that you begged them to stay. It's DARVO, right? Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. And once again, because it's not illegal, they're gonna act like it never happened. They don't care if it was wrong. They only care if they can be punished. And when they can't be, these guys feel invincible. They walk around proud and shameless. Doing harm in public, it's not a glitch. It's the strategy. It normalizes it. If people see it over and over again and they say nothing, that gives the abusers cover. You see it, you say nothing. That gives them control. He is shameless, and yet you're drowning in shame. That's how he wins, right? You're too embarrassed to tell, and he's too proud to hide. Now, the law is supposed to be like the floor, right? It's the bare minimum. But men, these abusive men, they treat it like the ceiling, Like, if they haven't been arrested, then they must be decent. It's also part of why abuse cycles always have kindness as part of it, right? Because they use that kindness to give themselves a little pat on the back, like, see, I'm not always awful. I'm nice to you. I'm not a bad guy. So I yell at you sometimes. It's not a big deal. Emotional abuse, not illegal. People are constantly saying, well, call the police. It's not illegal. He can mock you, ignore you, threaten you, cheat on you, call you names. No one's coming. And it doesn't mean that it's not abuse. It means it's the kind that nobody really wants to name. And you feel guilty for leaving a man who never hit you, but he drained you. You're exhausted. He chips away at your confidence, destroys you, destroys your joy, just to your boundaries. He makes you feel like a burden in your own life. And still, maybe he's not that bad. That's the trap. So you want to make it really simple. You feel small, scared, erased, unsure of yourself. That's not love. And it's not a communication issue. It's abuse. This is why survivors stay confused. The system, the courts, the cops, the culture, all of it rewards abusers who know how to keep the bruises invisible and the manipulation verbal, right? They don't need to be smarter. They just need to be shameless and patient and relentless, in fairness. And they've got examples to look to, right? Andrew Tate, openly misogynistic, brags about controlling women and built an entire empire on it. Another example, Josh Duggar, right? Protected by religion and family until the child porn charges came out, right? Adam Levine flirting with 19-year-olds while he was married, naming his baby after one. Not illegal, just deeply entitled, right? They know they can get away with it because the world shrugs and says, well, he didn't break the law, right? You women are always making false allegations when that's been disproven. Many times. Now, when you live with someone who literally makes you question your own sanity, doubt your memory, rewrite reality, it's all to protect them. You're going to start thinking that you're the one who's broken, but you're not. You are living with someone who has no morals. They only care about loopholes. Chuck Derry, the founder of the Gender Violence Institute, over all of his years running men's batterers programs and trying to talk to abusive men about what they've done, he has come to the conclusion that the only thing that will ever make these men stop is accountability, and specifically through legal means. They need to lose their wives, lose their families, go to prison, be charged and convicted of their crimes. Otherwise, they're never going to stop. It has actually been proven that there are so many benefits to being abusive towards women. Why would they stop? So if this is where you are or where you've been, I want you to know that you don't need a court to validate what happened to you. You don't need a criminal charge to know what happened. And you do not need anyone else's permission to walk away from someone who has ripped your heart out while convincing you that it was your fault. Now, this is exactly what I teach in my one-on-one coaching and my trauma bond recovery group coaching. We break the shame. We rebuild trust in yourself, though, not the system. That's a whole separate thing. We actually get clear on what abuse actually is, no matter what the law says. We start soon. So if this episode just kind of opened something up for you, click subscribe, because the next time we're talking about how they switch tactics when they feel you slipping away and why the kindness that shows up during the breakup is never love. It's strategy. You're not crazy. You were just trained to doubt what you saw. So let's change that.